This is TWiT.
So let me give you the highest level of this story and why even I wrote about it. First, Microsoft's biggest acquisition ever, like you just said.
What was the next biggest? GitHub?
LinkedIn. $26.2 billion.
Which even then we thought, that's an awful lot.
We thought that was like insane, right?
Well, for LinkedIn it was insane.
But 70 Instagrams, my God.
Yeah. And so the way this all came out, too, like the day after a holiday, we're all thinking, Tuesday's going to be an easy day. We're just going to coast. Plus, next Tuesday is Microsoft earnings. So they're kind of in a semi-quiet period. No, wrong.
Not so quiet.
Not so quiet. And it felt like the news started trickling out a couple hours before 9 a.m. Eastern because I saw a couple headlines saying Microsoft might buy Activision. And I'm like, oh, I hope they don't. I want a quiet Tuesday. And then suddenly, 9 a.m., we all get email like, yeah, we just made a bid to buy Activision. So Activision, for people like me who had no idea who they were, Activision Blizzard, Call of Duty.
Jeez, come on.
I had never heard of them.
You never heard of Call of Duty?
No, I heard of the games. I never heard of the
clown?
company. I heard of the games, but not the company. So Call of Duty.
Man, that's like a dagger
Candy
to the
Crush.
heart.
Right. Candy Crush.
Candy Crush,
So
they own
hated
King. I didn't know
Crush-
that. That was a shock.
Yeah. Okay, if you hate Candy Crush in your start menu, forget it. It's going to be there forever
Big
now.
time.
It's just going to be there. Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, all these names I don't know. Right. All these are part of this franchise.
Games, Mary Jo. Big.
Yes. Big. Very big. How many employees will Microsoft get if this goes through? 10,000 employees.
Yep.
10,000 more employees.
But they're also going to get one employee they probably don't want.
Actually, they're
Who
probably
they're
not
not
going
to
to
keep.
Oh, that would be a relief.
He's going away.
So Kotkin has been, and you see, you do know, or Kotick, I should say, you do know this name because surely you saw the news about the harassment, the frat boy culture around World of Warcraft. So, and Bobby Kotick is the poster boy for this. In fact, some people were perturbed that he's going to have this big payday when, in fact, everybody's calling for him to resign. Yeah. And that's why I think Microsoft rushed into this.
Well, so the rumor is that Activision Blizzard was going around shopping itself around, and they offered themselves
Kotick wanted out,
Meta, and Meta said no.
Really?
Yep. And so then they came to Microsoft, and Microsoft wasn't their first choice, but they're like, hey, what about you guys? You seem to want to do this gaming thing. You want to buy us?
That's a gross paraphrasing of the conversation, but yes.
Yes, I was privy to this conversation, and that's what they said. What else you need to know?
You're going to be like you're like Time Magazine now in all of your articles.
Exactly.
And then he walked into the room, looked from left to right, and saw a shining
desperation in the eye.
Desperation in his eyes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, the noose was tightening around Kotick.
Yeah.
Activision has paid huge amounts of money in settlements. I'm not surprised they're being shopped around.
And by the way, not to be cynical. Microsoft has had its own similar issues, thanks to Bill Gates and probably others, and actually definitely others. I'm sorry.
I'm sure part of your news this week is they've just
and coincidentally or not, just this past week, Microsoft announced they were going to allow a third party to review its policies with regards to those things and be transparent about that because of a shareholder.
What do you bet? Coincidental or not? Not.
I'm betting not.
Well, you certainly wouldn't want somebody to acquire Activision Blizzard. No. It's really not Activision.
Right, who had the
Blizzard's
same problems.
problem. Yeah. You would want somebody who's taking serious.
Well, I will say this, this came up I think as recently as last week. In the wake of that Power On documentary about Xbox, Seamus Blackley came out of the woodwork. I hadn't heard from him in years. And started talking to, publicly and started being public and everything. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned something about the toxicity on Xbox Live. And I kind of railed against that because, dude, this has been a problem since Xbox Live started 20 years ago. And you folks, Microsoft, he hasn't been at Microsoft in years, but, Microsoft has never done anything substantial about that. Mm-hmm. And then last week, Phil Spencer, then the head of Xbox, now the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, said something similar. I don't know if it was on Twitter or in a press interview or something. And I think it was last week on this show where I basically said the same thing. It's like, guys, you can't just talk You have to actually do something about it. And Phil Spencer as well, in the wake of the Activision stuff, had come out publicly and said, well, this isn't okay. You know, we're looking into this, you know, we're whatever. And, you know, did absolutely nothing about it, except by the company. and now, assuming it goes through, maybe they will be able to do something about it. So in a way, it, you know, not that makes right what's happening on Xbox Live, but it does at least put effect to the words that Phil Spencer had said previously with regards to Activision Blizzard. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at this from like a sheer strategy perspective, so what does Microsoft want here other than all the games that they can put on Game Pass, right? They also want mobile, a play in mobile, which Activision Blizzard has, and they do not, right? So all the time, Microsoft is looking for an entree into mobile. Like, how can we get back in the mobile game without a mobile phone platform? This is one way. You have games for mobile, right? Another thing they want out of this is what they always say they want out of every acquisition lately, which is community. They talked about this with GitHub, with LinkedIn, when they were trying to buy Discord. Like, it's all about, we're buying into communities. We want to bring communities along, because if you get them in one area, they're thinking you can bring them along into others. I'm not saying if you play, you know, Call of Duty, it means you're automatically going to buy Power BI. I'm not saying that, but it's kind of in the back of their mind, maybe, like, okay, maybe they'll
I will say there's a nexus of toxicity that involves Call of Duty and Xbox Live, and I have lots of experience with. But yes, there's a community aspect to it. For sure.
Microsoft, before this acquisition and before Nuance, which still hasn't closed, Nuance is the healthcare / voice company. They decided they were going to buy last year for $19.7 billion. Before that closes, and before this closes, Microsoft had $150 billion in cash.
Right.
So
And by the way,
they were ready to
thank you,
spy.
pandemic, for that.
Almost half of it. And it's it's a month's revenue. I mean, it's a significant chunk.
It's a lot.
This is free money, and I mean that sarcastically, but a lot of this money occurred over the past 2 years because of the pandemic and the incredible spending that occurred.
And COVID.
That's right. And all of the surge in usage in Teams and all of the work they've put into Teams and the other Microsoft 365
So you could thank Donald
products.
Trump for this, really.
Yikes. And
Is that a bridge too
That's
far?
a real.
that is a sentence that will never leave my lips, Leo.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about the end of
He
democracy.
set up the repatriation. You know, I think it was carefully arranged so that the rich would get richer during the pandemic.
Well, the rich did get richer. That's for sure.
Yeah, they did.
By the way, just from a high level as well, to think about gaming and how it works within Microsoft, et cetera, et cetera. Activision Blizzard is itself the result of massive mergers and acquisitions over many years, right? This is a conglomerate that has occurred over many decades. And I was just talking to Brad this morning, and I was saying, you know, a lot of people either don't remember or don't know this, but Activision started in the 1980s when a group of independent developers from Atari left that company because Atari refused to give them credit for the games they created. And so all of those early games had their names on them, you know, Pitfall, Barnstorming, et cetera, was someone's name was right on the box. And that was something that they really wanted. It was just a kind of a cute little independent company back in the day. Today, Activision Blizzard, like EA, like Sony, really, and like Microsoft, is a place that has dozens and dozens of game studios they've either acquired or merged with over the years. And thus they have all those game franchises that Ryan Joe mentioned. So that's been kind of a big part of the Twitter conversation is the gaming world inevitably hurtling toward this kind of consolidation thing where there's only a couple of major players? And the answer obviously is, yeah, of course it is. That doesn't mean that indie developers can't be successful. Kind of like indie movies can be successful or whatever. There are lots of great indie games these days, of course. Microsoft's been a big champion of that for sure. But yeah, I mean, the big get bigger, the rich get richer. There's no, I don't think there's any stopping it. I mean, there will be regulatory.
Well, that's the next question. Can this even go through? I don't think it can. Microsoft.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be stopped.
You don't?
I don't think it's going to be stopped either. Here's why. And there's a single sentence in the Microsoft announcement that I think tells the tale. They said when this, and of course they say when, not if. When this acquisition goes through, we will be the third largest gaming company by revenue, after Tencent and after Sony. So there's your answer to why it's okay. They're not creating the biggest. They're not leapfrogging everybody. Microsoft isn't using its massive cash hoard to dominate an industry in which they were almost don't mind the entire neighborhood exploding around me. In an industry where they were almost an also-ran, remember, thanks to Xbox One. Mm-hmm. This is them getting back in a very competitive position against those companies.
Right? And Apple, let's not forget. I mean, casual gaming is huge
right.
too.